I remember that night so vividly. That was probably could say one of the top 10 moments or nights of my life. Damn, I haven't seen that photo in so long. That's crazy. That's how I interviewed Chris Brown through like this $20 suction cap. It worked really well. But I looked at Kendrick Lamar and I was like, nah, this guy's a nobody. I was more focused on Tyga. He was a terrible rapper at that time. For some reason, he just loved me. And now is honestly the best time to be in Australia.
Thank you so much for being here today, man. I really appreciate your time. I think it's going to be really exciting just to have this conversation with you, because I think you're a very interesting character. We've spoke before about like a few things that you've done, where you've been, but I really want to deep dive into some of the conversations we already had. Normally we start podcasts asking like the person, tell me more about yourself. But I want to change it up a bit today, and I want to ask you to tell me a bit more about this guy.
Damn, what a cheeky little devil he is. I was only when I had one earring as well.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was when I was 15 years old. I still remember that photo being taken and being like, oh, hurry up, photographer. What are you doing? Yeah, that was an interesting time in my life. Man, it's taken me back. I was completely obsessed with basketball and hip hop at that period. So you can kind of see I've got that hip hop look about me. I've got the gold chain that was probably worth about $2.50. I was obsessed with Michael Jordan at that point in my life. So that's why I had the earring. I still have the earrings, but I was really mimicking Michael Jordan, Tupac, figuring out who I was. I was a kid from Canberra. I guess falling in love also with photography at that point in time too.
Okay.
15 is when I started getting into photography. I was really, I guess, trying to work out who I was. Like when you're young, especially a young boy, you don't know who you are and what your identity is too. So, I mean, man, I don't know. Where do you want me to start with that?
This looks like a picture straight out of a movie. I'm cool, got my earring in. Like, what kind of person were you on school? Were you like shy, introverted? And then also just tell me a bit about your friend group.
That's a great question, man, because it's funny, like when people meet me now, they see this, I guess you could say, well, what I think, like a well-spoken white Australian dude, right? But where I grew up, I was surrounded by a very multicultural group of friends. Like I was a lot of the time the only kind of like white Australian kid in my group. So all my friends at that time were like, my best friend was like a refugee from El Salvador, like a Torres Strait Islander. All of them were from like war-torn countries in like Serbia and Bosnia. So I was around a lot of great guys, but a lot of troublemakers. So to give it context, I've grew up with a single mum. We had no money. I thankfully was good at sport, so that kept me out of trouble. But I was around a lot of trouble. So a lot of my friends were stealing cars, stealing clothes, just doing a lot of drugs. But I was really good at basketball, and that's what made me cool, but also got me into trouble but kept me out of trouble at the same time, because I was hanging around, this really eclectic group of, young guys from all different cultures, which I loved. And that's also what sparked my interest for photography, because I became really interested in people and culture and where everyone was from. But yeah, I was extremely shy but confident through being good at sport. So I was actually voted the friendliest guy in my high school in the yearbook. So I was one of those people that I got along with everyone. I was, friends with the troublemakers. I could talk and
with the nerds.
But I think for me, being good at basketball and being good at sport, just like overall, really helped me, kind of navigate between different circles, because that kind of gave you like the cool factor, but the accepting factor, into various circles. And then I guess like going from sport to then picking up a camera, I started photographing this really multicultural group of friends that I had on the basketball court. And then that's what sparked my interest in portraits, because I'd look at my friends and go, oh man, you're from like Bosnia, or you're from El Salvador, or you're Filipino, you're Tongan. So my friends were from all over the place, and that's what gave me this interest in portrait photography, sport photography, hip hop. You know, it's kind of like this combination of things that have been around my whole life. So it's funny how, you know, all these years on, it's continued like that theme.
Yeah. So at that time, were you shooting on film or digital?
It was all film.
All
so
film?
this is, I mean, I'm 42 now, so this is going back when I was 15.
Let's just pause there. You don't look a day over 32.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I bring it up a lot when I talk to people, because so often people assume I'm much younger, and a lot of the time they almost don't. Sometimes they can't respect you at times if they think you're like young and you haven't achieved certain things. So when I have meetings often with people, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm this age, or you know. But sorry, man, what was the question?
I was asking about like whether you shot on film or whether you shot on digital, and you said film because, you know, it was many moons ago.
Yeah, many moons ago. So my mum got me this $150 film camera, and at the time one of her friends was a teacher at the art school in Canberra, so it was the School of Art. So she had access to a dark room and developing film. So she let me do the class for free, and then, you know, I got to experience photography in that sense for the first time.
Okay. Are you like at the age of 15 thinking, you know, I'm going to grow up to be a photographer, or do you grow up thinking I'm going to play basketball?
So what's really interesting is I was always passionate about photography, but I never ever thought I could turn it into a career, because back then, you know, this shows my age, but social media wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
Being a creative, I grew up in Canberra, everyone was a public servant or a tradie, you were looked down on. So for me to go and study photography, which I did for 4 years, was very much a bit of like a taboo. Like, why are you going to study photography? You can't get a job. Yeah. So my mind was, I'm going to be a basketball player. But then, even though, like, so I'm 6'3", I was good at basketball, but I wasn't great at basketball. So I wasn't able to go professional. Mm-hmm. So I started DJing and, you know, showing my creative side and taking photos. So I was always DJing and taking photos and into sport. But I started pushing the music side of things a bit more, because my dream was to DJ in nightclubs, because I thought photography, just, there was no way that I could turn that into a career, even though I was studying it.
Yeah, that's so interesting, man. Okay, so is this 15-year-old boy, you know, looking at photography, not wanting to become a tradie? He knows he's good at basketball, but he's not great at basketball, right? And he doesn't think he can pursue a career in photography, so he's doing the whole DJ thing. Right, I wanna go there, and we're gonna touch on that a bit. Let's just say you're doing a workshop, which you do quite often, right? Mm-hmm. And you see this guy in the crowd. How are you introducing yourself?
I'm calling the police straight away.
Are you introducing yourself to the crowd to let this boy know what's up? Like, you know, it's the younger version of you. Like, what are you saying?
Yeah, I introduce myself as, I'm Rush. I'm a photographer, film director, and mentor. I specialize in working with athletes that's inspired by street culture.
Yeah. And what do you think this boy would say hearing you say that?
You'd be like, damn, you actually stuck with it. And you did it. Like, it is possible, because, look, for me, I guess, like, I had the unfair advantage that my mum was an artist. So she always encouraged me to be creative. So from day one, she goes, James, I can see you've got the creative genes. Yeah. So I want you to really tap into that. And I was like, nah, I don't want to be an artist. Like, I want to be a basketball player. Yeah. Artists are broke. Because, you know, we grew up with no money. It was a real struggle, because, you know, my mum was an artist and a creative. Extremely happy, but just extremely broke. Yeah. So I had this, like, real chip on my shoulder, growing up as a teenager into my early 20s, not having any money and really wanting to change that. So I became also really obsessed with business.
I got a picture of your mom, yeah?
Yeah.
Your mom, I can show the camera. So you said you grew up with, like, a single mom, which means you never had a father figure around. Like, how do you think that affected the person that sits
It
here today?
affected me big time. Like everything I do is affected by that, because growing up, I thought, I mean, because I never had, like, I haven't seen my dad in a long, long time. So you get used to not having that around. So that was just normal. But then, like I said, I grew up around, a lot of troublemakers. So I realized I was always looking for guidance and a male role model. And I never had a male role model growing up at all. But my mum was a great, role model in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for her, I would definitely be in a lot of trouble today, like 100%.
Yeah.
But it's affected me a lot, particularly with what I do now, because I realize the importance of having leaders in the community. And that's what I'm doing with the brand One Shot. I think about what I needed when I was growing up, and that was guidance, that was a community, that was a male role model, and someone giving advice and giving direction. So that's what I was always craving in a lot of ways, still craving in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. And that's why I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I'm always looking for references, looking for that guidance. But that's definitely shaped me in a lot of ways, because it's given me a chip on my shoulder, which I, in turn, I put that into a positive, way in terms of moving forward, achieving goals, trying to achieve greatness. Yeah. But it's always something that I guess hangs over me on a daily basis, that I think about all the time.
Similarly, I never grew up with my dad. I was also I was raised in a small town called Walvis in Namibia, and we moved to Cape Town, South Africa, when I was about 7 years old. So I moved away from my dad because, my mom and dad, they got divorced. And luckily for me, I had my grandfather, which was a really strong male figure in my life. I would see him maybe once every second month or once a month, because we'd go out to sea. But I can really relate to you when you say you try and find things. I would go to church and I'd look up to the pastor, and I would want that kind of support. And I would again, podcasts or YouTube, or if I just see someone that I find inspirational, I'll kind of just try and cling on to that person, because I knew it's what I needed, but something that I never had growing up. So I really can relate to that deeply. You spoke about DJing, right? I don't know when the last time you saw this picture was, but you said because you thought you couldn't turn photography into a career, you decided to do a bit of DJing in nightclubs. So what do you think about this guy?
Yeah. That's a Polaroid photo in Los Angeles. So that was when I was living in LA. Interesting story. For people that may know Nipsey Hussle, that was actually a Nipsey Hussle studio in Los Angeles. So that was 2011, 2012. Mm-hmm. So that was, when I was heavily focused on DJing, but I was still taking photos. I was always documenting the process and always had that passion for photography, but it was more so seen as, a bit of a side passion. It was never necessarily this is going to be my full-time career.
Are you referring to DJing now in specific? You never thought it was something that was going to take you somewhere?
Oh, no, DJing. I started DJing full time pretty much from when I was 19. Okay. So I had my only other job that I ever really had outside being a creative was a pizza boy. So I was making pizza up until I was about 19, earning $10 an hour. Okay. And then I started DJing at a nightclub at 19, and I started making $50, $60 an hour. So at that age, that was crazy money, I would go DJ for 3 hours and I would make more money than working 4 nights as a pizza guy. So I was all right, forget this pizza job. I'm going to stick with the DJing. And then, so that was when I was 19, and then I was DJing in a nightclub at the time, and I thought I was making good money. And then that's when I started the community radio show. And then that's when, all the magic really started happening.
Tell me more about that radio show. What really sparked that? I know you said it was DJing, but talk me through that moment where you thought, this might work. What happened?
Yeah, so I got given this opportunity to host a radio show, community radio show. And as soon as I got it, I was like, oh, this is my opportunity. 19 years old, I was like, I can do something with this. Like, this is my ticket to the music industry. So I built a website, got a logo designed. I started emailing as many people as I could and told them, hey, I've got this radio show in Canberra. It's the #1 R&B and hip hop radio show. Can I interview your artist, or do you want to send me some like CDs? Back then, or CDs.
Yeah.
And then I realized that I had something to offer people, and this was my ticket, to start networking and communicating, because people would respond and go, oh, you've got a radio show. Oh, I'd love for you to interview my artist, or hey, like we can send you some product, like vinyl records, CDs. And then I started in Australia. Then I started emailing people in New York and LA, and all these people would respond. And it almost became like a bit of a game. I would literally email 20, 30, 40 people every day and just see how many people would respond. So I realized it was a numbers game. If I emailed, let's say 20 people, I knew that at least 2 or 3 of them would respond. And then that's what started building my network. So I did the community radio show for about 3 years, 2.5 to 3 years. So it started from nothing, and then next minute I'm interviewing Chris Brown, Bob Marley's son, Damian Marley, all these really big hip-hop artists in America, in Australia. And it just completely changed my mindset. And I realized, okay, I've got something here. How far can I push it? It just kind of became like a bit of a game. And that's when I also realized, like, being delusional is my greatest asset. I've got nothing to lose. I'm living at home with my mum. I've got this community radio show. I'm interviewing on a weekly basis all these like insane, people. I got to the point where I almost got offered a Jay-Z interview. That's like how far it was going. And it was because at the time, like R&B and hip hop wasn't mainstream. There was a handful of radio shows in Australia that covered this niche. Definitely no one else in Canberra. And I realized that a lot of people just needed to tick boxes. So I ticked that box of, there's a radio show here in Canberra. Let's get our artists on that show. So yeah, it just completely opened up my whole world.
So help me understand, were you DJing on the show? And that would kind of bring in like, you'd interview them and DJ at the same time. How did that work?
No, I wasn't that talented. I could DJ like on, vinyl records and turntables. Yeah. I couldn't do that on the show though. It was literally just, I guess, like a old school mixing desk, kind of like you and I are now. I had a girlfriend at the time. She was co-hosting it with me. And then we'd either bring people physically to the station, or it's kind of, I don't know, it's funny to explain, but I had like this $20 suction cap that would stick to the phone, and I would record that into my laptop and interview people in America. And that's how I interviewed Chris Brown, through like this $20 suction cap that stuck to the phone. And I would record his, and somehow I know it worked really well. And I would interview him through, that system.
I love how you downplayed interviewing Chris Brown. What was going through your mind when getting those opportunities, and then how did that opportunities, because you spoke about being delusional, how did that mindset really like propel you to do other things in life?
I think the biggest thing is 19 to 22 years old, I felt like I didn't really have much to offer out, But then I had this community radio show where people were like, I'm so excited to be on your show. Like, so I remember when I interviewed Damian Marley, this is Bob Marley's son. Yeah. I couldn't believe it. I could barely understand what he was saying because his accent was so thick. Yeah. But people would come on and be like, oh, hey, thanks so much for having me on your show. Like, I'm excited to be here. I've never been to Australia before. So it started clicking. I've really got something to offer. And these people are excited to talk with me. Even though I was terrible at interviewing, I got better over time. A lot of my questions were really generic, but it got my foot in the door. Yeah. And then what I started doing was, asking for favors after the interviews. So I interviewed a DJ from Los Angeles, and I said, hey, like, I'm looking for an internship. Could I do something with you? And then he said yes. And then this is how I ended up in Los Angeles. So I started understanding, the possibilities, and just thinking big, because in Australia we've got tall poppy syndrome. We're almost encouraged not to think big. But this radio show, like being in Canberra out of all places, like 5 people literally listening to the show. No one's listening, but I got Chris Brown on, who had the number one song like in the R&B and hip hop world at that time. It was this song called Run It. And, he was only 15, 16 at the time, but it just made me realize like, wow, okay, like anything is possible if you just put yourself out there and you say yes to opportunities. I was like shaking while I was doing these interviews. I was so nervous, but that's how I built my confidence. And doing it over 2-3 years, you get more comfortable with it. You start learning the tricks of the trade. Taught me how to email, taught me how to communicate. I ended up going to a lot of like award shows in Australia, networking with people, and then it made me realize like I had to form like an elevator pitch. So that means like I'd introduce myself, hey, I'm Rush, or back then, hey, I'm DJ Rush. I've got a radio show, Hot 91. It's the number one R&B and hip hop show in Canberra. I've interviewed Damian Marley, Chris Brown. Can we connect? So that way, it automatically people take you seriously because like, oh, holy shit, you've interviewed Chris Brown and Damian Marley. You got a radio show? Like, who are you?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, what's your email? So, yeah, it just made me understand like how to present things in the right manner and having visually something that was really strong too, like a website. So I've always loved marketing and learning that side of things too. So I, without realizing it, I guess back then I was developing a strong personal brand. I was documenting the process and I was extremely good at networking with people. I never took no for an answer. I still don't. I still cold DM people all the time. So I just have that analogy. You take 100 jump shots, one's going to go in, and one always goes in.
I'm so fascinated by how you're able to start something, grow something, really push and pull like a picture. We'll get into the Kim K picture a bit later. But you spoke about like learning so many different skills while being a radio host. You said you had to do like an elevator pitch, and then that kind of also taught you some marketing things. For anyone like wanting to grow a personal brand in today's age where technology is moving so fast, like what advice do you have for them that's consistent from that time that you still use today?
I've just always documented the process, like documented everything. So, like if I was telling stories now about, I worked with Kim Kardashian and Kobe Bryant and all these people, if I didn't have the photos to back it up, it wouldn't have the same weight. So that's the big difference is that I've got, I did mixtapes with like Kendrick Lamar and all these really famous rappers, but I've got photos with them. Yeah. So that's the big difference. I mean, I've not only got the physical mixtapes with them, but I've got the photos, and that is social currency. So having like documented the process from start to finish, even when like I had 5 people listening to the show, I wasn't interviewing anyone, I was still taking photos of myself, getting my girlfriend to take photos of me, and just being proud of what I was doing, I think. Yeah. So it's really important, no matter how far into your journey you are, you just got to document everything and believe in yourself. I've always believed that I'm really good at what I do.
Why?
Because I think for me, like once you've had like one little bit of success and one door's opened, it just makes you realize like, anything is possible. So I'm very humble, but I'm also very confident. So I know that no matter what I do, it's going to be successful. It's because I believe in it, and if I commit to something, I give it 100%. I never go 50%, 70%. It's always 100%. So it's just having that confidence within, and just being like, you don't have to say it to other people, but it's like, I'm the man. Like I'm gonna make this happen. So it's just believing in yourself. I know it's cliche, but it's honestly like it's the mindset of really believing in yourself. Because I always say you got to take that athlete approach. If you step onto the basketball court and you feel like you're not going to win the game, you might as well just go home. Like there's no point being there. You got to step onto the court feeling like I can do this. So it's the same with creating content, building a personal brand, emailing people. If you don't feel like you've got a chance, like, well, there's no point.
Yeah. I'm going to speak a bit about this guy.
Yeah.
Right? But before we go there, I want to ask you, like, when do you know that you being delusional about something? For example, let's just say you average at basketball.
Yeah.
When do you know when to stop and go, no, maybe I should try something else? Or do you just continue doing it until something happens? What is your what have you learned throughout life pertaining to things that you pursued?
Look, I'm someone that I'm a big believer of one opportunity opens another door.
Yeah.
So I just know that. So as an example for me, I wanted to become a professional basketball player, which didn't happen. But because I stuck in that basketball community, in that basketball scene, I went on to work with the biggest basketball players in the world as a photographer and as a filmmaker. So it's that thing where you might go on a journey somewhere thinking that you're going to become a professional basketball player, but then you end up becoming the director of the commercial for Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
You know? So you might want to become like the world's greatest podcaster, and then you interview someone on your show that ends up offering you an opportunity in a different way that you weren't expecting.
Yeah.
So I always believe that as long as you stick with something and you stay consistent, and if people can see that you're passionate and you're a good person, a good opportunity is going to happen. But it may not be the one that you're expecting, but something good's going to come from it. So yeah, you just got to stick with it. It might not be the outcome that you had from the very beginning, but it's going to turn into an opportunity in some way.
That's good advice. So let's touch on this character. Like I mentioned, where's this taken? Who took the picture? Where were you? What were you doing? What were you thinking?
Oh man, I remember that night so vividly. That was one of, I probably could say one of the top 10 moments or nights of my life. So that was 2007. That's at the Grammys after party in Los Angeles. I was actually working with Kim Kardashian that night. I was doing an internship in LA. Just the energy, the vibe, the feeling. That's the thing too. I mean, I won't go too deep into this just yet, but when you're around a lot of people that are trying to achieve greatness or have big dreams, and there's just that energy.
I've been around some people that like really inspires me. You know, when we go to a talk or you go to a concert, and you get home, you're buzzing, you feel like you can take the world on. You know, either you're around Kim K and maybe some other celebrities. What do you do with that emotion during that season of your life? How do you convert that energy into something that's tangible?
Well, I think the thing is, like, so for me, every time I look at that photo, I think, this was a kid from Canberra, you know, came from a single mum, didn't have much money, but always said yes to every opportunity and believed in himself. And then I landed in these positions that just seemed so ridiculous at the time.
Yeah.
But it gave me that confidence that anything is possible. It's all the cliche stuff, but it's the truth. Like, you've just got to say yes. You've got to put yourself in these positions that can potentially lead to something. Like, that is from a community radio show, you know? So it's like you now doing a podcast, you could find yourself in the most ridiculous situations because you showed passion and excitement and you had this like fantasy dream of, you know, and being delusional. So that puts you in this room with all these successful people and just makes you realize like anything is possible. Like, I can now touch it and feel it. I can smell it. It's there. So that just gave me so much confidence. Even 20 years on, I have these photos purposely framed in my studio. So I literally wake up every day and I keep reminding myself anything's possible.
Yeah.
You know, when you're going through highs and lows, you look at these photos and go, that's right, I went and did that. Anything's possible. I just got to keep at it.
So we're jumping a bit ahead of ourselves, or at least I am. How does this even happen? Like, you have a radio show in Canberra, and then you do an interview with someone, and then you get called to go to LA, or how does it work? Like,
yeah. So
and the next thing you know, you with Kim K. It's like, what happened? How did you get to that point?
Yeah, so it's, I guess, a combination of a few things. So initially it started the community radio show. I interviewed a big DJ, and at the end of the conversation, I said, hey man, I'm looking for an opportunity. Can I come and do an internship with you? aka how can I help you? I want to be of service. I don't care about the money. I just want to get into your environment and I want to help you be successful.
Did you say AKA?
AKA.
Oh, wow. Again, you throw these names out so loosely. That's amazing.
So it was just a way of saying like, how can I help other people be successful? I want to come and just work with you. So the guy was like, yep, like come over. So 6 weeks later, I'm in Los Angeles. Yeah. I didn't realize that not only was he a DJ, but he also had a PR company. So he had an office with a whole bunch of people working for him. And he was like, oh, by the way, we're putting on these Grammy after parties. Do you want to come and work on those with us? Well, of course.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to put it simply, this guy was like the biggest DJ in Los Angeles, working with all the rappers. He was also big into marketing, putting on events. So I was all of a sudden, I've gone from being this shy 22-year-old kid in Canberra. I'm thrown literally into the Hollywood scene. Kim Kardashian's calling the office. We've got rappers, NBA players, all types of people coming to the office. And I'm just like, oh my God. And, I'm getting introduced to all these people.
Yeah.
And then next minute I'm at the Grammys. Like, so my week literally looked like, not every week, but so often going to the Grammys. That was 4 nights of after parties. I would go to radio stations and meet people like Exhibit. They would. These guys were also putting on Magic Johnson poker tournaments with NBA players, and my job was literally going up to Jessica Alba and being like, "Hey, can you sign this guitar for charity?" So I started learning how to go up and speak to people and be confident. And particularly in Australia, particularly in America, having the Australian accent was also like an unfair advantage. So I think one thing you've got to learn early on is, what are my unfair advantages? So for me, it sounds like ridiculous, but it's having an accent that stood out. So in America, particularly in these very niche celebrity settings, just being there, you've got to be a somebody. So I'm in these rooms where everyone is an NBA player, Hollywood movie star, probably a millionaire business person, and then there's me. Yeah. So the thing is that everyone was looking at me going, I don't know who you are, but you must be a somebody. And then having the Australian accent really threw them off. So they were like, oh, okay, so what do you do? So in the beginning I was saying a bunch of nonsense. And
what were you saying?
Well, it's really funny, right? I printed up a business card to take over with me. I had a photo of myself on the business card, and next to it, this is the mistake I made, but it was part of the process. I was like, DJ Rush, radio host, DJ, artist manager, photographer. I was labeling everything under the sun. Yeah, no niche. And what was great is that then this guy who was a music executive, he said to me, he goes, all right, Rush, I'm going to give you some tips. See this business card that you've got? If I want a DJ, I'm going to go find the best DJ in LA. If I want a photographer, I'm going to go find the best photographer in LA. If I want an artist manager, I'm going to go find the best artist manager, So he said, you need to pick what it is that you're going to do, because right now, it's like, this is great that you've got the business card, but you're giving all these mixed signals. I'm not going to go with you for anything, because it's
you're everything.
You're everything.
Yeah.
So that's when I started learning about having a niche and what it is that I want to pick and choose. Of course, in the beginning, it's hard to pick a niche. I always say to people, you got to try everything, and that's what I did. I was trying DJing, I was trying photography, I was managing some artists, I was that was the other thing I had on the card too. At the time, I was writing for a hip hop magazine, so I wrote journalist. So it was everything.
I'm everything you need.
So you can imagine I'm going up to Jessica Alba being like, hey, here's my business card, and she's like, right. But that's part of the process. So I'm also a big believer of fail fast. So me failing fast was giving out a business card, getting this advice back, and then, scrap that business card, create a new one, and niche down. And so it's that thing of, if you fail quickly, you're trying something, you're working out what doesn't work, what does work, go back to the drawing board. It's like, okay, let's adjust this, try it again, but you got to do it quickly. That's the thing. That's where I've had a lot of success, is I fail quickly. So even with content, everything I do now, it's like, okay, I want to fail fast. Okay. So I'm purposely wanting to fail fast because I'm trying to get data and feedback. what's working, what isn't, and then that's what leads to success. Where a lot of people go wrong is they sit and think about things for too long.
Yeah.
And they might sit on an idea for a year, couple months, couple weeks, and then they overthink it, and then they put all their time and energy into something, and then they put it out to people.
And no one likes it.
And no one cares about it.
Yeah.
So that's why the hardest thing I always say to people in the beginning is literally starting. That's the hardest part. Once you sign up and you start something and you say yes, you've already achieved way more than probably 85% of people.
Okay, there's 3 directions I want to go into, but like I want to speak specifically about like confidence and finances. You in Los Angeles, we don't know where you're sleeping. You got a business card that it says you're a photographer, a lawyer, whatever.
Yeah.
You're everything, right? Where's your confidence at? Because I know it can be intimidating, being around people of influence, and everyone just looks at you as the maybe water boy, the guy that takes the guitar to get signed, or you're trying to make a name for yourself. So speak to me about like how you built your confidence, because I know there's probably moments that you had where you're like, I'm not feeling too great today, like I need to do something, maybe I should like pivot a bit or do something else. Like, how do you manage that feelings and emotions during that time?
So I think when I went to America at the age of 22, I didn't know who I was, right? So I guess you could say I was having like this identity crisis of who's Rush. And I went to America worried that people didn't want to work with me because I was actually from Australia. But what I learned was people wanted to work with me because I was different and I was from Australia. So what this taught me was you need to be proud of who you are and where you're from. So I think that's what gave me a lot of confidence, is going, oh, you know what? Like it's actually like kind of cool that I'm from Canberra and I'm from Australia, because my friends over in America would say, bro, look at all these rappers, look at NWA. They made a song called Straight Outta Compton. Compton wasn't cool before this. No one wanted to go to Compton.
Yeah.
They made Compton cool. So then I started going, you know what? I'm going to try and make Canberra cool. I mean, it might be tough, but I started realizing it's so important to be proud of who you are and where you're from. So I always preach to people. I remember I had like an Indian music producer come to me and he's like, what advice have you got? And I said, bro, be super proud that you're Indian and tap into the Indian instruments and put that into your music. Don't try and be Drake or 50 Cent or Kendrick Lamar. We've already got one of him. Be proud of being from your culture and who you are, and really tap into that.
Yeah.
So that's what I always say to people. That's what gives you confidence, because it's like, oh, shit, I can be cool for being who I am and where I'm from. And especially now in 2025, like there's a niche for everything. So if you're like a nerdy photographer from Johannesburg, like be proud of that and tap into that, and then realize like that's what, gives you that confidence of being proud of who you are and where you're from. So, I mean, just extend on your question. The thing that is really hard here in Australia is that we don't encourage confidence because we see that as being arrogant. Whereas in America, I went over there lacking a lot of confidence, and being around all these people that were so confident really helped me be confident. Because when you're around all these people that are like, man, I'm going to become the biggest photographer or filmmaker ever. And they fully believed in it. And it's like almost like delusional. But then that's what helped me. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to be delusional just like this guy. Yeah, I'm going to be the biggest like DJ or the biggest photographer that there is. So these like Americans, they also like, they believe in power in numbers. And that's what I try and really push here in Australia is like, hey, if we all come together, like all of us in this room right now, if we all come together and work on a project like we are with this podcast, right now we're doing something great. Or we could all have attitude and see each other as competition and be like, nah, man, I'm not going to help you on that podcast. I'm going to go do my own thing.
Yeah.
Well, it's not going to get you anywhere. I was like that for a long time. I was like, no, I'm going to be an individual. But then when I started bringing people together and going, you know what? I'm really bad at color grading. I'm going to bring a colorist in. You know what? I suck at lighting. I'm going to bring someone that's really good at lighting in. And then I started understanding it's like that sport mentality. We're like a basketball team and we're trying to win the championship. So that's how I view a lot of these things. And that's what, builds confidence, is having each other.
what was your mind telling you at that point when your, I believe, mentor said, like, you need to find one thing? Did you think, I need to become the best photographer now? Did you think, I need to become a better DJ? Or what's going through your mind at that point, and how are you kind of building your confidence in that time?
So at that point in time, that was when I was 22. I was heavily in the music industry then. So that's when I was like, okay, I'll take out the journalists, I'll take out the artist management, and I'm just going to focus on DJing. And I, really pushed the DJing side of things. I was always taking photos, and I was always, very passionate about photography, but I didn't promote it. So I always thought it was just like a bit of a side hustle, just something that I can add to the package. So yeah, at that point in time, I was like, all right, I need to niche down on being one of the best R&B and hip hop DJs and mixtape DJs.
Is that when this guy arrived or not?
Oh man, damn! I haven't seen that photo in so long. That's crazy. Yeah, you really have been stalking me. I like it.
So is that Rash discovering that, I'm going to take this DJ thing more seriously?
Yeah, definitely.
And who were you working with at that time? Because I know you done a mixtape for someone, but I don't want to say it. I want to kind of like dive into that.
So this was when I started working with Tiger.
Do you want to look at this picture again?
Yeah.
I had to use ChatGPT to find this one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'll show you one more.
I didn't even know that was still on the internet. Oh, yeah. Yeah, this was exactly this time. This is awesome.
I see you got your chains on. Who's influencing you at that time?
Oh, man. So I guess, this is what's funny, right? Is, so I'm this white Australian dude from Canberra, and I'm in Los Angeles, but I'm hanging around all the biggest gangster rappers in LA. So I'm working with Tiger, who's completely tatted up. I'm working with The Game, who at the time was one of the biggest rappers in the world. He was having this huge beef with 50 Cent. So that photo is actually taken in Compton at The Game's music video, where Snoop Dogg's there, all these, like hardcore gangster Mexican guys are there. Kendrick Lamar was there. That's when I first met Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick Lamar was a nobody at that point. He was called K-Dot. He was more shy than I was.
Yeah.
So I was around all these... there we go. Yeah.
Can we just pause very quickly? Like, again, you said Kendrick was a nobody. Could you at that time like sense this guy, he's got something? Or did you just think, let me take a picture, maybe one day?
Well, what's funny? I think one of my gifts is like picking talent. I'm really good at picking talent. And I've been able to work with a lot of people before they have blown up in their career. But I looked at Kendrick Lamar and I was like, nah, this guy's a nobody. I was more focused on Tiger. I guess visually, Tiger was covered in tattoos. He had the big gold chain.
He had a bit of grit.
Yeah, he had a bit of grit. He had the confidence. He was a terrible rapper at that time, but he had the confidence. And for some reason, he just loved me. Like he asked me to be his official DJ. He introduced me to a lot of people. He was happy to pay me as well. To do the mixtape and do the photography for his mixtape cover, which was really cool. So, it was a crazy time. I was around all these up-and-coming rappers at the time, which, have turned into be like some of the biggest rappers in the world.
When you see it today and you're like, I spent time with that guy, or I spent time with that artist, like, do you lay up at night thinking, like, it's crazy that all of that took place?
Look, I still pinch myself, but I think I look at it from a lens now where I just keep saying to myself, anything's possible. I need to get back to America. Let's work. Don't think small, because I think this is a big problem in Australia. We're so just physically, we're so far away from the rest of the world.
Yeah,
we can tend to think very small here. And now is honestly the best time to be in Australia. Like 20 years ago, I literally had no choice but to get on a plane and fly to Los Angeles to make stuff happen and to interact with these guys. You can be here now in Melbourne, in a country town in Australia, in Canberra, and you can make content and you can reach anyone. So it's so important to think big and surround yourself with the right people. You got to be around big thinkers. It's the thing that people always talk about, but it's so, so true. The 5 people that you spend the most time with are the ones that you're going to end up reflecting. So that's why I try and get back to America as much as I can, because I purely go back to be around that energy and that mindset. And that's why I don't watch the news. I haven't watched the news in 5 years. I don't want any negativity coming into my mind. I listen to a podcast every single day. I only follow like positive content on my social media feed, particularly since COVID. Like I mute a lot of people on my Instagram, you know, if I have to stay friends with them, but I only feed my mind with positivity. So yeah, it's like your mindset honestly is like, it's so important.
So you leave Australia to go to the US. Like, what's your financial situation at the time? Because I know we had some conversations about that, but like I'd like you to share, you know, how that affected your confidence as well. Because I know how it can be, you know, trying to find a place to sleep or, you know, getting your next meal. What were you doing and how were you navigating that?
Well, I mean, so yeah, to give us some context, when I went to LA, I literally had no money behind me. But the thing was, as I touched on before, because I grew up with a single mum, I grew up living off Centrelink till I was like 16, which meant, I don't know, my mum was probably getting $200 a week. You know what I mean? So we grew up living off a shoestring. So for me, that was just normal. I was so used to having like $5 and being like, how can I stretch this over a couple of days? So when I got to LA, I think I had, at the time, I thought I was super rich. I had, I think, $1,500 in my bank to last me 3 months. So when I got to LA, I only knew where I was sleeping for the first 2 nights. I met a band and they were like, hey man, like you're super cool. Where are you staying? I'm like, I don't know. They're like, come and stay with us. So I ended up sleeping on their carpet for 3 months. It was in this all Mexican neighborhood. It's an extremely dangerous neighborhood. 4th night I was there was a shooting. The building that I was staying in had the classic, you know, yellow tape wrapped around it. And I was living off 99-cent tacos every day. I had enough money to catch the bus from this Mexican neighborhood in North Hollywood into like Melrose in Hollywood.
Yeah.
So I had enough money to catch a bus every day and just buy 99-cent tacos, and then I was sleeping on the carpet. But I was so excited, you know. I was living what I thought was my best life. And I didn't care about money at the time. As long as I was in LA and just around that atmosphere, I knew only good things were gonna happen. I wasn't getting paid to do the internship. I didn't even care about that. That didn't even cross my mind. I just was happy to be in the environment. But to put it simply, literally had no money.
You get people that are extremely creative, but they don't know how to turn their creativity into a business. And then you get people that are very business minded, but they lack creativity. What advice can you give to someone that wants to turn, you know, their creativity into a business? And how did you do that? Like, whether that's when you were still doing a radio show or taking pictures or even just being a DJ, how do you kind of, you know, make your creativity lucrative?
Well, hands down, the thing is, what you got to realize, I always say to people, when you're a creative and you want to take the route of being a photographer or, you know, videographer, you got to realize it's the exact same thing as like opening up a pizza restaurant. If you don't know how to run a business, the pizza restaurant's going to have a, you know, close sign on it and you're going to be shutting down very quickly. You've got to understand, how do I send invoices? How do I market? How do I, you know, communicate with people? So I believe like running a business, like a creative business, doing the creative thing is like 30% of your time. And then the business is like 70% of your time. You know, sending emails, making phone calls, having meetings, marketing, you know, branding yourself. That side is so important. So the advice I can give is you need to find a mentor as soon as you can, or start learning about the business side. Because number one, it's extremely important, but it's also going to give you a massive unfair advantage compared to a lot of other creatives. And this is where a lot of creatives struggle. They don't know how to quote. They don't know how to charge. They don't know how to do sales on phone calls.
Yeah.
You know, it's all these things that make a huge difference. You know, I went from charging $500 a photo shoot or a video to 6 years later doing $150,000 commercials. So that was because I learned the business side.
Yeah. Do you know, you spoke about like having mentors. Who were your mentors back then? I know you spoke about the guy you done an internship with. Do you have any mentors now?
Yeah.
And how many mentors did you have in your life?
So I recently got a mentor when I was in Queensland for 3 months. So she specialized in like online education, corporate world, and sport. So it was the best thing I did, because someone can literally just come in with a fresh pair of eyes and just go, all right, Rush, you're doing this right, you're doing this wrong, this is what you need to do. And someone's literally just giving you, honest feedback and saying, this is the direction you need to take. And it's just a matter of putting your ego to the side, because she gave me a lot of these ideas in the beginning where I thought, I don't want to do that. Oh, that's not going to work. And now I'm doing it and it's booming. So funnily enough, I also caught up with a mentor that I had for a number of years yesterday, and he's actually in the coffee business, but he taught me a lot about running just business in general. So one of the first things I did, as an example, when I had him as a business mentor like 10 years ago, I went to his office and he just sat down and was like, okay, what's your dream job? Where is your money coming from now? And what's your bread and butter? So where are you trying to take this? How can you make money? Where are you wanting to go? And how can you mold all this together into like a successful business? So he, at the time, this is where he also taught me about niching down. So to give you an example, I was doing weddings, I was doing hip hop music videos, I was doing sports videos, corporate, and he was like, okay, like the best thing that you can do is specialize in an area. So like, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to make commercials for Nike. He's like, okay, well, Nike doesn't give a damn about your wedding videos or necessarily like your hip hop or corporate videos. Like Nike's not going to come knocking on your door unless you start putting out Nike looking content. So from that's how I started Rush Entertainment Group. I created my video production company because he said you also need to have something that is beyond you as an individual. So if you start like a company and you specialize in a niche, then what happens is that you become a specialist. So when you become a specialist, you can charge more money, because like you call me and say, hey Rush, I want a sports video. I can say, no worries, Josh, like I'm the best in this niche. This is what I specialize in. I know this market inside and out. $50,000 for a video. This is what I do. And what happened was, when you become a specialist too, people, they start calling you for what you specialize in. In the beginning, I was just getting phone calls. Hey, I need a videographer. I'll take anyone, is pretty much what they were saying.
Yeah.
To now, I only get phone calls from people wanting my look and what I specialize in and my expertise. I don't get people calling me saying, I just want a videographer.
I wanna ask you, because I think this is very important to touch on. What are 2 things that having a mentor taught you? Because I'm very stubborn, man. I think I can figure out anything.
Yeah.
But the reality is you can't. Like, if the formula is there, why try and figure out what the formula is if you can just get it from someone that spent the time doing it?
Yeah.
So what has your relationship been with having a mentor? And then also, what are 2 things having a mentor taught you?
Okay, so I'll give you an example, right? I do a lot of mentoring now. For one-on-one coaching, I charge $5,000, right? I've had a 22-year-old kid in Sydney come to me for mentoring. I was able to help him land a $50,000 retainer. And that's because he invested $5,000, turned into $50,000.
Yeah.
And it's because I can say to him, this is how you need to respond. This is how you should quote it. This is how you do X, Y, and Z. So it just speeds up the process. When someone has done the thing that you're trying to do, they can just speed up the process. Yeah, in the beginning, $5,000 might seem like a massive hit, and you're like, oh my God, I can't afford this.
Yeah.
But it's literally going to probably speed you up by 2 years. You can keep watching the YouTube videos. You can keep, doing all this stuff. But everyone that I've mentored, it's just sped the process up, because it's so much different when you're sitting across, the table from someone and you're like, this is literally what you have to do. And yeah, it just saves a lot of time,
Yeah.
So, and the thing too that I've learned, like I've invested in courses. Like I did a course the other year last year for $3,000. That was a personal branding course. Went for 6 weeks, and because I outlaid the $3,000, every day that the course was on was at 8 o'clock in the morning. So I purposely woke up at 7 a.m., had breakfast, had a coffee, and I was at every call at 8 a.m.
Because it was so expensive.
Yeah, because I'm like, man, I paid that $3,000.
Yeah.
Like, give me my return. But if I paid $150
Yeah.
at 7:30 in the morning, I'd be like, oh, you know what? I just want to sleep in. I can't be stuffed. I'll watch the replay, or I won't go today. So what they always talk about is that the people that invest the most get the biggest return, is because they've financially and emotionally invested into something. So, if you're like looking for a quick fix and cheap and quick results, you're not going to get it. Or you're not going to get it as quickly. That's the difference. So I would say to people, like, I know not everyone can afford 3,000 or 5,000 or more, but just getting a mentor in general, finding someone that has done the thing that you've done, is going to speed the process up a lot.
I'm the type of person, or let me say I was the type of person that if I had $3,000 to spend on a camera or a mentor, I would choose camera.
Yeah.
Right? But now I see it much differently. You can very quickly, like you said, fast track your progress and go like, if I invest into this program or into this course, I can eventually get to the point where I charge 5,000 versus 500. If someone has or if they put in a position to choose the $3,000 camera versus getting a $3,000 course, what advice are you giving them?
100% going with the mentor, because knowledge is power. And as an example, let's say you pay the $3,000, you get that mentorship, you get the confidence to charge a lot more for your work. Then, like, let's just say you pay $3,000, you get a mentor. Now you've got the confidence to charge $5,000 or $10,000 for a job.
Yeah.
All it takes is one phone call, one job to come through, and you've got your money back and probably doubled it.
Yeah.
So that's what I always say to people. If you invest in something that I'm doing, I can pretty much guarantee you're going to get a 10x return.
Yeah.
So that's the whole point is having. It's like if you break down a personal trainer at the gym. It sounds ridiculous. Like, I'm going to go to the gym, do a bunch of push-ups, and then I'm just like paying this guy to give me claps and encourage me. But that is like so powerful, having someone there giving you the confidence, telling you to keep pushing and keep going. That's what coaching is. Pretty much every single time I'm coaching someone, I'm like, you need to triple your prices. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, you're charging way too little for your work. Like, your value is triple that. So it's just knowing that, okay, I can charge triple that. So at the time, to give you an idea, one of the biggest commercials I did was a $150,000 commercial. That's, all that money coming into my bank. I had a mentor at the time. I was going to quote 50,000, and he's like, are you crazy? Like, no, like, you need to triple this.
What did that teach you about tripling your prices? Was it like the scope? Like, you didn't have enough oversight to know that the gear is going to cost that much, to get the people in place is going to cost that much? Was it an awareness thing of like, I need to charge more because I need to get more? Or was it just, if you charge more, then people's going to perceive it as more valuable? Like,
yeah,
what
definitely.
did you learn from that?
Well, number one, I learned there's a lot of money out there and people have a lot of money to spend.
Yeah.
And what you've got to understand is, I think particularly for me, growing up without money, I've always had that scarcity mindset when it comes to money. I'm always like, I grew up for a long time. How can I do something the cheapest? How can I, not spend, much money? And then I realized you got to do the opposite. You got to invest. So I learned that if I was fixing someone's problem and providing them with a lot of value. So as an example, this commercial that I charged $150,000 for, from that video and the value it gave this company, they probably made millions of dollars from it. So you've got to get your head around, okay, like, what value am I providing this person? That's why marketing is so important. If you do a commercial for Nike, the amount of money that they're going to make from having that ad or that photo shoot, like, that's how you've got to view it as well. So it's just realizing that, number one, there's a lot of money out there. It's finding the right people with the money, fixing rich people's problems. It's also understanding how much value you are providing, having that confidence within yourself, and just dreaming big.
Yeah, that's so good, man. I'm gonna jump forward just a bit, right? And I want to show you this picture.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
This is a picture with Kobe. And as I can see, you're wearing a Rush Entertainment t-shirt. So I know that that's when you started your production company. But how does someone land an opportunity like that? And how do you manage a job that big?
So that comes from a number of years of connections and relationships, and then also being a specialist. So when Kobe came to Australia, the guy that was bringing him out and putting on all the Kobe Bryant stuff was like, I need to find the best video production company that can work with, number one, basketball, but also high profile people. So when the guy called me, he goes, you've been recommended to me by like 3 or 4 different people, because they were like, oh, you need to go with Rush. He works with NBA players. He specializes in sport, does a lot of work with basketball. He's worked with all these high profile people. He's your guy. So being, once again, a specialist and having a good reputation, word of mouth, is how I've landed all my big jobs. Marketing online is great, of course, but word of mouth and being recommended is what really makes you like the big money. It's having that trust from other people. So at that time when I got that job, I was excited, but then also very nervous. And then that's when, once again, back to a lot of things we've talked about, power in numbers, having a group of people that, I've built relationships with over the years. We've worked on a number of projects. I knew that I had like a team of people that we could knock this out the park. So I think I had about 8 or 9 people working on that Kobe Bryant project with me. And, it's like I said, having the confidence in not only within myself, but also, the team of people that I got.
And then you also worked with Tom Brady. What was that like?
It was great, man. I guess like for me, it was kind of a reflection too of the Kobe Bryant project, because if you look at how these opportunities have come, it's, from one relationship that's opened up another door, and another door. And Tom Brady was kind of, a combination of all these opportunities over a number of years. So I'm always grateful, when I get in those positions and get to be around these people. But I think one thing I will touch on is you've got to do your research before you work with someone like Tom Brady or Kobe Bryant. Like, I'm pretty good across like a number of sports, but say I don't know anything really about American football. So leading up to the shoot, I spent a lot of time watching his interviews, really understanding who he was, what he's achieved, why is he Tom Brady, and that way you can, number one, like create better content. You have a far, more like respect for that person, but also if you're there's a lot of moments where it might just be you and literally Tom Brady, and if you need to spark up some conversation as well, you at least have got something to talk about,
Yeah.
Because you can find yourself in some awkward situations if you're filming Tom Brady and like you've got no idea who he is. So it's really important to respect and understand who it is that you're working with, particularly if they're like a high caliber person.
You got a quote on your wall that says, just jump, I believe.
Yeah, stop thinking, just
jump. Like, what does that quote mean to you? Especially in a situation like working with Tom Brady. How do you navigate something that's bigger than you are? Because let's be honest, it's a high profile athlete. If you don't need to record on the camera, you're technically screwed. How do you kind of navigate a situation where you're feeling a bit overwhelmed? It's a really big opportunity. You don't want to mess it up. How do you see yourself through something that's that big?
I mean, going back to the stop thinking, just jump, that's how I've lived my whole life, is don't overthink it and just do it. And you've got to have that confidence within yourself that you belong in the room. You've been chosen for a reason, and you're going to deliver the goods. It's like once you've done something over a number of years, like you can put me in any room with good or bad lighting, I'll be able to create something incredible because I'm so confident now in my skills and storytelling capabilities and what I have done. I know that, I can create the goods. So when it came to Tom Brady, it was like, yep, I've done this many times. Let's try and make this the best project I've ever done. So for me, every project I do, it's like, how can I outdo the last one? And I want to create something that Tom Brady's like proud of. I want him resharing it on his social media. So that's like the mentality I always take into each project.
That's really cool. All right, we're gonna move on to One Shot. Right, One Shot is something that you started over a year ago. It was actually just your 1 year birthday, 1 year One Shot birthday.
Yeah.
And this is the second event you had, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And I know at that time, you can correct me if I'm wrong, you didn't even have the name yet. It was just an event that you were putting up. What did that or this event mean to you specifically, and where did your mind wander to when you saw, this amount of people? Because I think, to put out the post and see this many people come together, something must have happened in your mind and you saw an opportunity. How did you kind of like think about it and like really grow what One Shot is today?
So the way One Shot started was during COVID. I had a lot of my close friends leave, and I was like, damn, a lot of my friends have gone. I need to make some new friends. So the concept was, I'm going to do a coffee meetup. Maybe 7 or 8 people will come to a cafe, talk about photography, video production, and we'll have a coffee, and maybe I'll make like a new friend. That was all I had planned. So I did the first meetup. 35 people came. We had some models, hired out a studio. I was like, this is really cool. So a month later, I was like, let's do another one. So I put that event on, and I had an RSVP list, and I had 413 people sign up for that. So that's only like a small chunk of the people that came in that photo. So what I started realizing is, it's not just me that is craving this. It's a whole community of creatives. So a month after that one, I went to Brisbane. I had a shoot for Christian Dior. And while I was in Brisbane, I was like, let's do a coffee meetup or a meetup. Same thing happened. I had 400 people in Brisbane sign up, but the venue only held 80 people.
Yeah.
So that's when like the light bulb went off, and I was like, okay, there's a demand here. People, because what I started realizing is, people aren't necessarily coming for the photography. I was getting messages from people like, I've been really lonely. I don't have any friends, but I came to your meetup. I've got friends. I've been, suffering from depression, and this day gave me a lot of confidence. And so, I was getting a lot of these emotional messages, and I was like, oh shit, like this is way bigger than photography. I was worrying about the models and the venue, which of course, like you've got to put on a good event. But I started realizing, this is much, much bigger. So then I started taking it a lot more seriously. I mean, also to give you an understanding too, the first 3 meetups I put on was out of my own pocket. I spent like $12,000 of my own money putting on these events. So I realized, okay, this is awesome, but I'm going to go broke putting on these events. I can't keep doing it without trying to figure out how to monetize it as well. How can I help people, but then also not go broke?
Yeah.
So that's when I came up with, the concept for One Shot. And I was like, how can I bring community together? How can I build people's confidence? How can I help educate people? And it's just putting together everything I've done over the last 20 years under one umbrella. And that's essentially how it came about. And in the last 12 months, a lot's happened.
That's so interesting, man. I think the community you've created in this time is so powerful, and I think there's so many people that I just bump into that knows about One Shot, which means that you're making like a lot of waves in the industry, especially in Australia. What does Rasha's day-to-day look like when it comes to managing One Shot, and just like taking care of your mental health, your physical health? Like, how do you manage, running a business, taking care of yourself at the same time?
Yeah, I think one thing I'm guilty of is I'm definitely a workaholic. So, I'm trying to create more of a balance. So recently I went to Byron Bay for 3 months, which is, by the beach, by the ocean. So thankfully now I can work remotely for what I do. There's a lot of emails, a lot of phone calls, a lot of, coaching over FaceTime. So I was able to, do a lot of that while I was away, and I purposely went away to work on also my physical health, because I'm a big believer of, as a creative, if you're not physically and mentally in a good spot, your creativity isn't going to be any good. So I try and preach to people, like, get in the gym, go for walks, look after your health, look after your fitness, eat well, see yourself like an athlete. So I've got a slogan that is creatives with the mindset of athletes. So I try and look at it almost like from a Kobe Bryant lens. Like, how can you approach being a photographer or a videographer like Kobe Bryant would? How would he do that? For some people, that's quite extreme. But if you want to achieve greatness and you really want to do something special, if you go about it in that sense, you're going to really achieve a lot of greatness by physically being in a good place. If you're physically in good shape and you're eating well, mentally you're going to be in a really good place, and that's what creates great ideas. So that's why it's not always easy, but I try and on a daily basis either go to the gym. I like getting out for like an hour and a half to 2 hour walk. Every day can be, I've got like a structure, but every day can be, relatively different depending on what's going on. I travel a lot now, which I love. But it's just building, a better structure as the schedule gets busier, incorporating AI where I can, using things like Notion. I'm a very organized person, so like that's an advantage that I've got. I'm very organized.
I don't want to touch on this too much, but you recently had a viral Kim K video.
Yeah.
Tell me what that was like and like what that means, because I asked this question specifically because many people believe that virality equals money, which is so far from the truth. It can bring you the opportunity to make more money, but I think we're living in a time where everyone's chasing followers, they're chasing numbers. What has that video taught you about virality, and also just maybe what success that video has also brought you outside of what people might think?
So the video got 14 million views in 2 weeks. It had 7 million views in the first 72 hours. So in the beginning, your ego's being stroked. You're like, oh my God, this is going crazy. I was getting thousands of followers, DMs from people all over the world. Obviously a lot of comments, a lot of likes. So in the first week, I would say it was great. I made a lot of like incredible connections. I had people, I had a billionaire movie producer hit me up from Hollywood. He was messaging me, asking a lot of questions. I had all types of people reaching out. A lot of high profile like models, rappers, podcasters, authors, all types of people. But then after a week, I was getting all these followers that I realized I don't want this person following me. I don't want these people following me. And then it went from a lot of positive, funny kind of comments to then a lot of people digging into a lot of my older content where I was talking about a lot of positive things, and then people just commenting a lot of negative comments. In the beginning, I was like, yeah, whatever. The video's going viral. But then after about 48 hours, because the video kind of stopped at 10 million, and then I was like, okay, it's done. And then it just picked up again and went crazy, and then hit another 4 million views within 48 hours. And I was like, oh, this is probably going to end up getting 20, 30 million views, and this isn't attracting the audience that I want. So I woke up one morning and it got to a point where I was hating checking Instagram. It's just filled with a lot of negative comments, a lot of people following me that I didn't want following me. And I was like, all right, I'm deleting it. So I made a lot of other videos around it. So I just deleted everything related to it. And as soon as I deleted it, I was just like, I can breathe.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, so because it made me really understand, okay, I got 14 million views. Yeah, I did make some great contacts, but it wasn't attracting my
ideal client.
Ideal client. So it just, made me understand, so that was on my personal page. And then when I was on my personal page with the video going crazy, I hated being on my personal page because it was just too much. But then I would go onto my One Shot Instagram and I'm like, these are my people. Like I feel much happier being on this platform. I'm communicating with people that I want to talk with. I'm sharing content that reflects me. So 14 million views, it doesn't mean you're going to make any money. I've made a lot of money from a post that got 60 likes and 10 comments, but I'm speaking to my target audience.
Yeah. Something that I'm like, honestly, I look at your Instagram, your personal one, as well as your One Shot one. And I think what you're extremely good at is branding yourself, like making something feel tangible. It's almost as if I can take One Shot and put it in the palm of my hand and say, this is something that I understand, right? And I think a lot of people can't do that. It's a skill, and I'm just listening to your story. It's a skill that you learned while doing the radio show, while being in Los Angeles, and creating a business card, because that's what makes all of these things feel real. How do you make the things that are intangible tangible for people to go like, I want to be a part of that?
Like as in becoming a part of a community, or
no, like how do you make them feel connected to something that's productizable? I don't know if that's a word.
Yeah,
but
no, definitely. I know what you're asking.
Sense?
Hands down, comes down to storytelling. It's all about storytelling, getting people emotionally connected to you. So I think the greatest skill that you can learn, particularly now, 2025 and beyond, is storytelling. There's no doubt about it. We humans are always going to be fascinated by humans. They always say people buy from people.
Yeah.
With AI and technology exploding, it's only going to be emphasized even more. We're going to crave human connection more and more. Yeah. So if you can understand how to tell not only just great stories, but emotionally engaging stories, that's why I'm like quite a private person, but I've learned, not that I spill the beans on everything in my life, but I will purposely tell very vulnerable and emotional stories. I'll say there's posts on my Instagram where I talk about being shy and not having the confidence to, do a lot of things when I was younger, but I kept pushing and I kept, believing in myself, and that led to interviewing NBA players and working with these people. Yeah. So it's just, it really comes down to storytelling and getting people, learning about who you are, what you believe in. And that's why, it's storytelling and having a niche and knowing how to market yourself. And that's, where those elements come in. Like if you really break down, like I remember Mr. Beast, he said, the key to all my success is knowing storytelling and human psychology, which means understand what your niche is, who you're trying to speak to, and tell, powerful stories that relates to that particular person that you want to tap into. So if that's, creating a video for Nike and really learning how can I tell a powerful story here. So that was, like in the beginning, that was my goal. I would try and get people almost teary-eyed in a 30 to 60 second commercial. So now I've had to learn the formula on how do I tell stories about my life or whatever it may be to the general public.
I think, sometimes, and I've heard it a lot, people say, tell stories. But it's not as easy as one might think. It's like, how do you tell a story about yourself? Like, where do you start? What do you say? Do you speak about your dog? Do you speak about yourself? And I think sometimes why people struggle to tell good stories is because, like the 21 version of you, they don't know who they are. So it's like, what do I say? How do I say it? So what advice do you have for someone that maybe feels a bit insecure like you were when you were 21 years old with a business card that has everything on it, that maybe is a bit camera shy, maybe have some experience because of like a radio show? What advice do you have for someone that says, I'm shy, I don't know who I am, I want to tell the story? Where do they start and what do they do?
It just comes down to repetition. I always say it's like going to the gym. You're not going to go to the gym and work out for 2 days and expect crazy results. Yeah. You just got to fail fast, keep going, show up every day. It's the word that we hear all the time and we hate to hear it, but it's consistency, repetition. That is what leads to success. I was absolutely terrible at speaking on camera 4 years ago. Yeah. But I literally made a YouTube show every week for 2.5 years. And the difference from when I started to 2.5 years later, it's chalk and cheese.
Yeah.
You know, if I showed you the first YouTube videos I was doing, it's cringe. So it's just stick with it and just understand, like, you're going to get better. It might take 3 months, 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, but if you stick with it, it's always the last man standing that gets the results.
I asked you to bring 3 items that if there was a fire that you'd grab. What are those 3 items, and why did you choose it?
Okay, so first item is my Kobe Bryant hard drive. This is extremely valuable, this one. This has got footage that would be it is worth a lot of money, and you know, these are one of my most proud projects, you know, especially because number one is Kobe Bryant, but particularly because he's passed away. That project, I've got multiple backups. That's the first one I would be grabbing.
Okay.
So that's one is the hard drive. Number 2 is my phone. Call my mum, say, Mum, the house burnt down. I need to come and stay with you. But
yeah.
I mean, obviously the phone has everything that, you know, runs our lives these days. And then one of my most prized cameras is, I'll pull it up here so you can see, is this 1965 Polaroid land camera. It takes my favorite photos. It's a very hard camera to get now in this, you know, quality. It's just more of a personal connection. You know, like I've taken a lot of my favorite portraits. I've got a fridge full of the film that is discontinued. You can't get it anymore. So it's more like of a selfish personal thing. But as long as I can call my mum, still, you know, edit the Kobe Bryant footage and take photos on my favorite Polaroid camera, I'll be happy.
I might hold on to that camera for just today. Last question. I just want you to tell me, like, what you're up to in One Shot now, you know, where people can find you.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's anyone interested in joining your community, like, where can they go and what can they do to be a part of it?
So One Shot specializes in working with creatives who are interested in the sport and street culture niche. So if you're into photography, video production, it's mainly aimed at this group. And we've got coffee meetups. We do meetups all over the country. And then we've also got workshops. And I've just released a masterclass. So we're going to be doing multiple masterclasses, but we're doing these literally all over the country. It's a combination of online education, in-person workshops, and that is giving you like the foundations on, you know, knowing how to take better photos, but then also how to run the business side as well, and working with athletes, working with models. So like I said, it's 20 years of all the experience I've had with photography, video production, working with athletes, brands, and bringing it all together for One Shot so other people can frame their dream. That's my slogan at One Shot, because like I said, I really want to teach people to dream big, be delusional. And in one of the masterclass sessions, I'm breaking down my Kobe Bryant project and going into detail about why it's important to dream big, have that confidence, you know, believe in yourself, and you know, getting people G'd up, you know, to be a creative. So we'll have a photography masterclass, we'll do video production masterclasses, personal branding masterclasses. I'm even thinking about doing a film photography masterclass as well. So it's, you know, niches within niches. And this is where I can call on, you know, connections that I've got with professional athletes and brands. You know, I've sent people to the French Open in Paris, to Wimbledon in London, working with, you know, basketball players, AFL players. I just landed one of my members a $15,000 contract. So I'm really helping people, you know, to achieve their goals and dream big. So there's no gatekeeping. But yeah, you can find us on Instagram here. I'm giving you like the whole spiel. But yeah, there's One Shot on Instagram. We've got the website, oneshothq.com. And yeah, come and say g'day, send me a DM, I'll respond.
You really do respond to messages.
Might even send you a voice message.
Yeah, you definitely will, and that's one thing I really like about you. The first time I reached out, you responded with a voice note, and I love how intentional you are. You know, again, thank you for coming today. You know, I really loved, you know, just speaking a bit about, you know, your journey, and yeah, I hope you all the success. and I'm excited to see what happens in the next few months.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. And I've been enjoying watching your journey. I wish you all the success. Keep doing your thing. I think you got a lot of talent. You're very charismatic and you're very quirky with your content. So my advice is just keep believing in yourself. Be proud of who you are, where you're from, and take chances. Go for it.
Amen.
We'll see you on the red carpet.